entire bag. Granted, it's the smaller bag, but entire bag. Recently, on my lunch break from work, I stopped by Bath & Body Works because I needed some more hand soap. While I was shopping, I noticed Bath & Body Works had a bunch of new fragrances, so obviously I'm going to check them out. A lot of the fragrances featured whiskey or bourbon or Merlot as one of the not only scents in the product, but also a dominant scent in the product, which kind of reminded me, last year I started my pairings series, where I paired a dominant note, such as chocolate, with a bunch of fragrances that were chocolate dominant scents. That being said, I wanted to do my whiskey pairings video, which I thought would go really well with my Old Fashioned by Killian video that I just released. Thought, hey, I'll pick up a bunch of these scents and we can kind of go through them as like a, you know, an appetizer for the main course, which is the whiskey pairings video. So let's do that together. See if the whiskey scented products at Bath & Body Works are worth looking into. Obviously, Bath & Body Works is kind of more expensive for a body cleanser, but when you're comparing it to, you know, Killian or Creed, very inexpensive. If you're able to pair a Bath & Body Works scent to bring out a note in your fragrance that you want to highlight, hey, nothing better than that, especially if it's a fragrance that doesn't have the longest longevity. So the first one we're going to look at, they were more of the men's collection, but men's collection Whiskey Reserve. So Whiskey Reserve, inspired by Special Selection single malt whiskey, distilled in oak barrels that bring a sweet combination of flavors to create the perfect blend. Now, like I said in my Old Fashioned video, I actually don't know a lot about whiskeys. However, I do enjoy an Old Fashioned, and the guy that makes me Old Fashions had told me about the distilled in oak barrels, what that means, and I think it's pretty interesting. The difference between bourbon and whiskey is that whiskey has many varieties and is made all across the world, including the Americas, while bourbon is a type of American whiskey that is made from at least 51% corn. Bourbon is a take on the whiskey that originated with the original colonists and immigrants from Europe. The immigrants and colonists brought with them their traditional way of making whiskey and then adapted it with the materials that they would have on hand in the new country, creating this new kind of whiskey. Corn was thriving in America in a way that rye and barley weren't. So then corn became the base of most whiskeys. Bourbon is America's native whiskey. To be classified as a bourbon, all the parts of creating the bourbon must be conducted in America, including the mashing, distilling, and the aging. Not all whiskeys in the US are bourbons, but all bourbons are made in America. To be classified as a bourbon, the whiskey must also be aged in a new charred oak barrel. Other whiskeys from other areas probably have different rules pertaining to the vessels they're aged in. Another interesting note is once the bourbon is made in these barrels, often the used bourbon barrels are then used for aging other spirits, including other kinds of whiskeys, not of the bourbon variety. Back to the men's collection. So this is a 3-in-1 hair, body, and face wash. Though honestly, I would not recommend washing your face with anything fragranced. It's just not that great for your skin, especially the sensitive skin of your face. But the fragrance notes in this: crisp apple, single malt whiskey, and white oak. So let's check this out. Honestly, it smells a bit like a, you know, a typical men's body wash. It smells actually kind of clean and aquatic. I suppose that's the crisp apple. I'll wash my hands with it and see if it smells any different when you actually use it. Be right back. Okay, back with very clean hands. One thing I did notice though when I went to use it, the top is gold, which is interesting. And then when you go to get the soap, gold as well, which is kind of neat, kind of fancy. As opposed to, this one is one I got for Gracie, but strawberry pound cake and hot pink, which okay goes with the bottle, but look at the top. It's just normal white plastic. Just when I washed my hands, it did have a little bit of maybe an oaky scent to it. It's very nice. It's very subtle. It's clean. It's definitely one that I would purchase for a man if I was buying him soap. Does it smell strongly of malt whiskey? No, but it is a nice fragrance. Bath & Body Works obviously going to be liked by the masses. But it's a nice fragrance. A little different if you're wanting something other than, you know, Head & Shoulders or something. Moving on. The next one we got is Single Barrel Bourbon. Men's collection. Also, this one does not have the gold top. Also I like how the bottles look. They look like a fancy whiskey bottle, but Men's Collection Single Barrel Bourbon, inspired by small batch bourbon that's been aged in charred oak barrels, bringing a hint of woodiness to a classic spirit. So this has fragrance notes of spice, citrus, smooth tonka, and aged wood. Okay, this one's much different. It does smell like a slightly spicy wood. More oaky. I get the aged oak. All right, let's go clean our hands. Very woodsy, much different than the first one. The first one was very aquatic, very like a typical manly cleanser. This one is more woodsy. It's more of like an aged, kind of that, I don't want to say charred, but like a heavier wood. It's a wood that definitely has a strong scent. It's not unpleasant. It's, if you like more woodsy type scents, this one is probably one that you would like more than the first one. You do smell a hint of that. I don't know that you smell the citrus so much, but you do get the tonka, you do get the oak. So if you're looking for a cleanser or a scent to bring out that note in your fragrances, definitely check this one out. Single Barrel Bourbon. If I was going to pick one over the other, I probably would pick the Whiskey Reserve over the Single Barrel Bourbon, but that's just me in particular. I tend to like aquatic over woodsy type scents. The last three are all just basic hand cleansers. I think they're going to be great for fall. Fall tends to have kind of that have a cocktail by the campfire type feel to it, so I can see why Bath & Body Works would be bringing that note to their fragrances. I just find it funny that it's kind of like the in note right now to have like a whiskey or bourbon or Merlot dominant fragrance. So we have Black Cherry Merlot, which is actually one of my favorite Bath & Body Works scents. You guys know that I love a good cherry scent. This fits the bill perfectly. It smells like black cherry. Let's see, it says dark cherry, black raspberry, and Merlot. I actually don't particularly love the smell of wine, but I didn't get that from this. I worried it would have like that kind of twangy fragrance, but it didn't. It just smells like a black cherry fragrance, which again, the body wash or the body cream, or I don't know that they have that in Black Cherry Merlot though. Oh, I got a visitor. Hey bud. That's Winston. Oh, and he's back. My mom calls him Trouble. That being said, you guys know that I love black cherry scents. I love Carmina. I love Kessa, other cherry dominant fragrances that I have really been enjoying. I was going to do a cherry pairings video. I had so many, I had to break it into two, so I was like, well, how am I going to do this? And that just set me back on my cherry fragrance video making. Black Cherry Merlot, which I recommend as one of their hand soaps, if you like the scent of cherry. Only two more. This one was Sweet Whiskey, which I hesitated to get, but I wanted to make this video, so I had to give you the full spectrum of the alcohol fragrances at Bath & Body Works. The bottle itself is fairly attractive, very fallish looking. Let's see what the scent is like. I would say it's like a berry floral. I don't really smell whiskey. We have golden amber, vanilla infused whiskey, and sweet red berry. Again, I'm going to say the whiskey is a very, very faint scent, if any. It might have a slight twang to it, which we could say is the whiskey note in the fragrance, but again, this one smells more like red berries to me than it does a whiskey scent. So that was Sweet Whiskey. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I know it's a fairly random one. Obviously not niche or luxury fragrances, but you know, sometimes fun to do something different. But, and again, these would accent your niche or designer fragrances very well. But this one, leather and brandy. I don't like brandy, and I don't really like the note of leather, so I'm hoping I don't hate this fragrance. But fragrance notes, warm leather, amber woods, and aged brandy. So I'm going to go try this because it's a pump, and I'll be back. I can see why it's called leather brandy. You do get the hint of the leather in there. I mean, it's faint. It's not super, super strong, but it does smell a bit like leather, or like a leather note in a fragrance. And you do get a hint of the brandy. Oh, it's kind of hard to describe. I mean, how would you describe brandy? Like a deeper, it kind of gives you a little bit of a warming sensation, but it's also kind of like a smoky, there's a smokiness to it. I would say that this fragrance is more smoky, it's more leather, it's more woodsy. It kind of reminds me of a fragrance, but I can't pinpoint it. It's one my dad would wear. He's still with us. I just mean he wore when I was younger. Maybe one of the older Ralph Lauren ones. Yeah, probably. Either way, it smells like a kind of an old school. The next one is Coffee and Whiskey, and I have actually been using this one in my bathroom currently. It does smell very strong of coffee grounds and a hint of whiskey. It's nice. It's very autumnal. I can see this being a good winter scent. And again, it's a hand soap, so you know, they're for fun. Use them until they're gone, and then you can move on. The notes in this: bold Irish whiskey, a splash of vanilla, and a hint of coffee. I would say it's more a bold coffee with a hint of whiskey, but that's me personally. But it's nice, and I've been enjoying it. A good one to wake you up in the morning. It is a fairly stronger scent, and the scent does stay with you a bit, so keep that in mind. It's not one that's going to be, you know, a faint whiff of freshness for the rest of the day, but it is enjoyable if you like the smell of coffee. One that you would check out, or you can check out if you're interested in a scent like this. There you go. If you were looking for more autumn soaps or cleansers that aren't your normal winter or aspeny or apple pumpkin type fragrances, there's a selection for you. Also ones that would pair really well with fragrances that I either spoke of or will be speaking of. So, love you all. Hope this helped you out at all. And if you're interested in watching a review about a whiskey scented fragrance, please go here. Also my shirt, available on my pop-up shop.